Rob Schneider is here. Got dates all over the place.
I'm going to be in Virginia this weekend.
That's right. Harrison Opera House.
Yeah.
And you can go to robschneider.com for all the live events.
It's nice working in an opera house, by the way.
I could imagine.
It's beautiful. And then it's nice because all the people that work at the opera house are so happy because it's just a comedian. It's a mic. They don't have to clean anything up.
You could see all those people fanning themselves in the audience with their binoculars. I like the idea that the opera glasses, someone's like, look, we need binoculars, but these ones have to have a stick on them.
Yeah.
And you're like, why can't we just use binoculars? Like, it's too much work to hold your hand in this direction. You got to hold the stick, and we'll call them opera glasses. And it's like, is it really much more of a calorie burner to hold your hand this way versus vertically? I get it if you pay someone to hold the stick. Although I feel like that'd be a lot of conversations if you had like a opera.
No, but you try
binocular.
This is tiring after a while. No, they're right, and you're wrong about
But you're holding the stick. You still have to have the hand
yeah,
up.
but the stick can be down. You can lean the hand down. No, I do. I think this one. I think.
You think they have a point?
I think this one they do have a point, and also they're older people too. They get tired.
Less work.
Ami Horowitz is calling in. It's a friend of the show. It's funny. His latest PragerU video is Israelis or Palestinians, I should say. Who's more tolerant? That was his last vid he did for PragerU, and now he's kind of. You would go to Ami for all things Jewish. He's been in Israel a lot. And obviously the shit's going down.
And he calls him our mensch on the street.
That's right. So, Ami?
Hey, buddy. How you doing, man? Yeah, I am Mr. Jew. So if it's a Jewish-related topic, I'm the guy.
Beseder Gamor. What does that mean?
I like that, Rob.
Beseder Gamor.
It means very good. Absolutely.
Beseder.
Wow.
Beseder.
Beseder.
All right, speak English, you guys.
What's going on in Israel right now and over the weekend?
So it was a really, a shocking shot. Look, Israel has been through a lot when it comes to the victim of terrorism by the Palestinians over the years.
Nothing worse than this, though. Nothing worse than this.
There was nothing like this ever. Like
ever.
Even
in the history of Israel.
The Yom Kippur War, as
1973,
awful as that
it wasn't like this.
That was essentially military attacking another military, right?
Yes.
Yes, they were trying to wipe Israel off the map, but it was a military attack.
They weren't coming in, kidnapping, grabbing children and grandmothers and taking them hostage. This is like the most barbarism, Middle Ages shit that you've ever seen in your life.
We're talking about raping grandmothers, raping kids. This is on a level that we have not seen ever, really. The level of brutality is simply off the charts, and the numbers. Look, my people are telling me on the inside that this is going to top over 1,000 people who were killed. And relative, you want to look at what that is relative to the size of the U.S. population. That's if there was an attack in the U.S. and 50,000 people were killed.
Wow.
That's the level of death and carnage that we're seeing. But I think here's the craziest part. And actually, I'm in the middle. I actually took a break from a video that I'm shooting now in response, and I'm asking people on the left here in New York if this attack was justified. And I'm telling you, 80% of the people that I'm talking about are excusing the attack, justifying the attack, and telling me that Hamas has the moral high. If you could believe the nonsense, Hamas has the moral high ground on this attack. And what's so amazing, I don't know if you guys have watched. I've been obsessively watching the news. And with CNN in particular, the first 24 hours of the attack, they were 100% on the side of Israel, right? Across the board. They called it brutal, horrific, terrorists. And then we started to see a change. Actually, it was Anderson Cooper came on at night, and Anderson Cooper used the word militant for the first time on CNN. And said, well, the U.S. calls them a terrorist organization. And that was the beginning of this thread that I think CNN started to pull. And now you're seeing the narratives starting to change. Now we're seeing, hey, Israel is now responding by brutalizing the Palestinians. And they were showing images. I'm sorry if the noise is back, 'cause I'm out in the street. But the images they were showing were like Gaza, Israel, essentially saying there's a moral equivalency between the barbaric attack on civilians as opposed to Israel's response against Hamas. It's truly fascinating.
Yeah, there's many things that I find interesting that sort of came from the left. In that, I always talk about McCarthyism and how they're practicing McCarthyism now in much greater numbers than they ever practiced it in the 50s, something they rail against. How they seem to be for, the industrial military complex.
Well, that's coming from the government too. You're getting that from the mainstream media that it just they just support
right.
But
I'm saying I grew up in a nest of leftists who would have never been into McCarthyism or deplatforming people or removing them from their jobs. They've never supported the industrial military complex.
Right.
They were pro-Israel. When did everything just turn upside down? When did every college campus become against Israel and into divesting from Israel?
I think part of it was the turn of this woke ideology, which is my truth is my truth and your truth is your truth, and my truth is an emotional truth, and it's like, no, there is the truth. You can see barbarism and you can't describe it in any other way or justify it except it is barbarism. It is and it is a war crime. It's barbarism. It is murder, and it is these people are beasts.
I was asking Ami, but. Sorry.
Hey, man, the great Rob Schneider has a right to answer that question.
You're right.
But I will take my crack at it, and I will say this. It was when we decided to sell victimhood as a virtue. When we started peddling victimhood and saying that we have to raise the victims, that's when you saw the pendulum change. When they were selling the... I actually spent 2 weeks undercover with Hamas. I got to know them and the mentality very, very well. They are extremely smart people. And they were telling me that we have to portray ourselves every possible way as victims because the West understands victimhood. They got this before we did. They understood the paradigm shift and dynamic of we can sell ourselves as victims, we will win the propaganda war, and they're 100% right. That's when it began, in my humble opinion.
That's interesting.
Smart. I mean, that is a major, major commodity, and especially in a world where all you have is public opinion, and that's sort of your commodity. Well, then having every single dingbat on every single college campus be in your corner. And by the way, those dingbats are going to get jobs at CNN. They're going to get jobs as senators. They're going to get jobs in Congress. Those guys are going to leave that college campus in a few short years, be in positions where they're in charge of purse strings that have to do with you. So smart.
And I'll point out one other thing that when we were sitting around and drinking coffee and singing songs and talking late into the night, that when they were talking about who they want to kill, they obviously never said Israelis. Those were not the words they would use, or Zionists. They kept saying Jews. I want to make something that's very clear. This is really not about land. It's about the eradication of the Jewish people. That's what this is. And they don't care if you live in Israel, if you live in New York City, if you live in LA or in Arizona. If you're a Jew, the Jews are what they want and who they want to wipe out. I want to make that very clear to my Jewish friends who are on the left who support the Palestinians and say it's Israel who are the oppressors. Hey, brother, I got to tell you a little secret. If they see you on the street, they'll kill you because they're a Jew. They don't give a crap, shit about your political perspective.
All I can say is it's a good thing our border is shored up so none of these people can sneak across. It's a very good thing that we have
a stout border.
Yeah, that there's not a possibility of any radicals or terrorists sneaking into the United States because we've taken care of that at the southern border where that's not a problem. So luckily, we're all safe. Thank you, Biden administration, for that.
I go to sleep at night saying my prayers, saying, thank you, Kamala Harris, for being the border czar. Where would we be without her?
Yes. Oh, my God.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem we have at the border is those Border Patrol guys on horseback beating those Haitians. These are honest people coming here to hang a shingle and start a new life, and then they are just bootstrapping them with their reins. Yeah. So that was a big deal. Other than that, we have no problems at the border, Ami. So how do you think this thing's going to play out in Israel?
It's no bueno. I think it's the best way of putting it. I think it's going to be look, I think it's stupidity for them to do that. I guess, look, I know why they did it. The reason why they did it was because they saw Israel moving toward peace with all of its
neighbors,
the people who were funding them over the years, right? The Saudis in particular, when they saw the Saudis moving toward a détente with Israel, they said, this cannot be. We have to find a way to create a wedge between Israel and the Palestinians.
And the way to do that is to have an extended war.
Look, Biden actually, I was happy with his statement. It was a very unequivocal support of Israel in this particular case. Although, actually, something interesting, the initial comment that came out of the Biden embassy in Tel Aviv was de-escalation. Literally, before Israel even reacted, this is right out, it was the moments after the attack, they called for de-escalation. And to Biden's credit, I'm not a fan, but I like to credit where credit is due, they rescinded that and recanted that statement from the embassy, which I liked. But, if we're being real, the thing that they have to understand is the Iranians are funding all of this, right? The Palestinians have no industry, right? They don't have a high-tech sector like Israel does. Their money is all coming from the Iranians. I think the last time I saw the budget was 94% coming from the Iranians. Now, when the Biden administration will take great pains to say the $6 billion that we spent,
we told them not to give it to them. We told them specifically, you buy some hummus with it, you buy other things, Baba Ganoush, but you do not buy weapons, please. We ask you. We said the word please, and it's not like they can't get the weapons from Afghanistan.
All right, sorry. Go ahead, Ami.
What's that?
Sorry, finish that.
Yeah, yes, okay. Actually, that's the argument that the Biden administration is making. This is only for humanitarian purposes. Let's assume that they're right, and they're giving the money to vendors who are paying the thing. That's fine, but it's like either they have a willful disregard for what the concept of fungibility of money is, or they're just stupid. How do they not understand that if you give money to somebody who would otherwise have spent the money on it, that just means it frees up the other pocket to spend on whatever they want. It's insane to me that they're making the argument that the money they're giving them has no consequence against us in the United States and Israel. It is beyond belief.
Yeah, so the fungible part is basically like, let's say, it's back in the day, I got no money, I'm living in my apartment, I got $500 set aside for rent that's due in a week. So I set that aside. And then I have a uncle who calls me and goes, hey, man, I just had a great day at the track. I got $500. It's going to take a week to send it out to you, but I'll send you $500 because I just kicked ass at the racetrack. And then I go, oh, okay. Then I take the $500 I got set aside for rent and I just go buy Coke with it. Now, you could accuse my uncle of buying me Coke with the money, but he didn't buy me Coke with the money. He just freed up the money I'd set aside for rent so I could buy Coke with that money, and then his $500 went to rent. That's basically what you're talking about, right, Ami?
Is that a difficult concept to understand? I don't understand how the Biden administration doesn't get that. That is like ABCs of anybody who spends money per month understands that concept. The entire administration can't get it? What's going on?
I agree. So how do you think this plays out?
How long do you think this is going to be?
I think this is going to be months, not days. And I think that Israel, here's exactly how it's going to play out. Israel is going to clean their clock. And unfortunately, a lot of people are going to die on the Palestinian side in Gaza. And like I said, you're going to see the entire narrative turn on Israel. Even though Israel they are literally the most ethical army in the world.
Yeah.
When you look at the numbers of how many civilians die for each attack, no army in the world, not NATO, not the United States, not Sweden, kills less civilians per capita than Israel does. But yet, Israel is going to be blamed as the oppressor, and that narrative will continue.
Remember the Scud missiles dropping in from Iraq and Israel restraining themselves and not responding?
Yes, and that was probably a massive mistake that they paid for years. I think they said, Israel will respond if we attack them.
How long before the first member of the squad says something really stupid
they kind of did right out of the gate.
Anti-Semitic?
Yeah, it's already they haven't said anything anti-Semitic at this point.
Yeah.
but it's already they're already saying like AOC way out of the gate was like, "Hey, Israel, you can't respond. You got to chill." Like they already began that.
Yeah.
But I promise you that once the attacks begin to ramp up in Gaza, as they will and as they should, you will hear the squad come out completely stridently against Israel. And the anti-Semitism will start coming from that. Oh, the Jewish lobby's protecting Israel. All that is going to come out, and it's going to put the Biden administration in a very, very tough spot.
Who's going to be first? Is it going to be the ladies from The View or the squad that says something retarded involving Israel?
I think it's going to be a photo finish, man. I don't know. I would not lay a bet on that, to be honest.
Ami, you can shoot Ami a tweet at AMI Horowitz, and I'd appreciate it if you check back periodically, Ami, and gave us an update on this subject you know very well.
I will. And by the way, the great Rob Schneider, did I hear that you knew who I was before I came on?
Yes. Come on, I'm a fan of the show.
I am tickled to death.
Well, and I think what you were saying before, I do think like the idea for Hamas is to stretch this out to test the patience of Israel's neighbors and to test their the peace in that region. I do think that is they'll try to stretch this out so that eventually it'll become so strained that it'll collapse those peace initiatives.
Well,
you're not wrong.
Oh, there's a part 2, by the way, that the ladies from The View and the squad need to get on. They got to link this to Trump. So that right now they're sliding some numbers around down in their basement, trying to figure out to come up with an achievable math equation that connects this to Trump and the Trump administration. Believe me, that'll be part 2. All right, Ami, good to speak to you, my friend.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, guys.
All right. We got some news to get to.
Whew. Oh, that ruined my
it's horrible.
Indigenous Peoples Day. All right. So police in eastern Pakistan have smashed an illegal organ harvesting ring.
First of all, I'm shocked.
Yeah.
I want to just start.
There's illegal harvesting.
I want to do a daily cable show called What Year Is It? And it's like there's more human trafficking out of, and the Middle East is on fire. I just go, what?
Here's the thing. If China and Afghanistan, these are the places, it's the only places in the world. If you smoke and drink too much, it's actually better for your health because then it's less likely that the government there will use you to harvest organs to sell.
Wow.
I can't. I wouldn't take it from me. I'm a mess. My asshole just fell out an hour ago. You don't want this. You don't want my liver.
You know something crazy, Rob Schneider? Bring it all back. You watch SNL from 1977. SNL from 1977. Yeah. Watch Chevy Chase do the news, and he'll lead with trouble in the Middle East.
Yeah.
You will hear trouble in the Middle East at the top of SNL in the 70s.
Mm-hmm. We lead with it today. So, so this gang, the alleged gang leader, identified as Dr. Fawad, is accused of conducting 328 operations on people to remove their kidney and sell them to clients for about $34,000 each. He was allegedly.
So he would take it. They would go in for another reason.
Yeah, that's right.
He would say, "I'm going to have to put you under for this."
Right.
What?
Oh,
and then
no
they would
consent.
They would secretly take the kidney. Yeah. So
just one though.
By the way, so the police became aware of this because a man approached them saying that he was persuaded by one of the gang members to seek private medical treatment, and then he went to another doctor and was told he didn't have a kidney.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how they. That's
also a dummy who can't like that scar. I think I had it. I don't know. Maybe I didn't.
Right.
I don't remember precisely, but I don't know. I don't remember that.
Oh, and the doctor was allegedly assisted in the operations by an unnamed car mechanic who administered the anesthesia.
Oh, wow.
Well, you got to give it to him, though. I mean, that's a talent.
Yeah,
the anesthesiologist is the most highest paid guy in the room usually. Yeah. When you're having surgery, and that's the guy who's going to bring you back. So for a car guy to do that's talent.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
that guy.
He's probably working on the nitrous in the Fast and Furious. They're always with the nitrous, you know what I mean? So car guys today know their way around a nitrous tank. Maybe that's what he was using for the anesthetic.
Yeah. So this doctor has previously been arrested 5 times, but was released on each occasion and was able to resume his operations.
Sure.
Are you saying in Pakistan you could buy your way out of jail?
Yeah.
That's outrageous.
I am saying that.
That's racist.
3 deaths so far have been confirmed.
Wow.
But we're still confirming the data.
It's just insane that this goes on. And you should
years?
thank your lucky stars that you don't live in in a country that is that backward, even if we're marching toward it.
Don't you know, though, that there are, and roughly, if you read The Sociopath Next Door, if you go by that, there are roughly 4% of people, so 96% is good, 4% of people are sociopaths that have no conscience.
Yes.
And mostly they just go about making problems for people that they run across in their families or whatever. But if they get in positions of power, that is when they could do some evil shit like that, right?
Well, there's something I don't think we counted on as a society, which is the amount of people who will do most anything for money.
Yeah.
And maybe we should have seen it coming, because money will buy you, it can buy you healthcare, it can buy you transportation, it can buy you all things from the sort of trivial, it's a snakeskin wallet, to my son, I can pay for his rehab, or whatever that thing is. And so if you construct a society where money, because we're not really done with, we're at the part now where, like, I was walking in my neighborhood today, I saw the mobile dog grooming van, parked in front of a neighbor's house. So it was difficult to avoid washing your dog back in the day. But now, if you have $118, someone will come in a van and take your dog and it'll wash it for you. Like, every single facet of life
is viable.
And, it used to be, it didn't matter how much money you had. If you got malaria, you died. But now, if you have money, you can be saved with a lot of things. It's life or death. And so then what we're saying to people is there's this thing, and it's called money, and we'll pay it to you, but we need you to be super honest and ethical at all times. I think we've proven that people...
They don't.
Not only don't they become different bad people because they're pursuing it. I mean, it's just like... It's like LeBron James with China. You know what I mean? Like, LeBron James never stops talking about human rights, but he can have a couple of sweatshops making his sneakers. Is LeBron James a bad guy? I don't think he's a bad guy, but money is forcing him to then yell at the guy from the Spurs who said something, or the Mavericks or whatever, who said something about China, right? Right, but Rockets, it's somewhere in Texas. The point is they have too many franchises.
John Cena was my favorite one. He actually learned Chinese to apologize.
Right, to apologize.
In Mandarin,
right.
Yeah, it's like, never apologize. I've never apologized for a joke. I never will.
So... is John Cena a bad guy? Is LeBron James a bad guy? No, but money has impacted them and making them into bad people and forcing them to do things.
And it's changing their behavior to become unethical.
Right.
Through
and
money.
So here we are.
Yeah.
And
they
then
don't change it overnight. It's a little bit at a time until you got nothing left and you're Gavin Newsom.
Right. All right.
That's what happens.
Yeah. What else?
Oh, so Rob, you brushed on this earlier, but I do want to get your thoughts on RFK Jr. announcing that he's going independent.
Well, I mean, I was talking to him about, first of all, 4 years ago, I said, if you ever run for president, I'll stop everything and I'll help you. And then he's running for president, so I didn't stop everything and help. But I did some fundraisers for him, because at least he's talking about stopping the revolving door between industry and the regulatory boards. I mean, you can't have it. You can't have somebody, Julie Gerberding, the head of the CDC vaccine division, leaves there and goes and makes $40 million in her stock or whatever from Merck. You can't have that. I don't know exactly the number on that, but she did make millions of dollars from that. We have to have a health agency that is going to protect the health of Americans, not the health of the pharmaceutical industries. Because what you're really talking about before, if you take it further, you can have an industry that can buy every state legislature like Pharma does, not just the feds, not just in the federal, not just the federal senators and congressmen, but state, like what they did here in California. That's how I got first. They tried to cancel me with Big Pharma, because they were paying to eliminate parents' options to, if they didn't want, if let's say they had one kid that was injured by a vaccine and they didn't want their other kid to have to take it. In the state of California, Gavin Newsom and all these scumbag Democrats, who it's a super majority of Democrats, they take all this money from pharma, and that's what funds their campaign. So they're not going to go against it. And so then the California Medical Association, which is another group of unbelievable scumbags. These people are completely corrupt, and what they've done is they've forced their way to force people to do things that they don't want to do. And we've gone from a society, and if they want to talk about this, they've gone from a society now where you have, and this is an old 10-year-old statistic, and the NIH doesn't give it out anymore, 54% of American children suffer from chronic illness. That is unheard of. I'm talking about childhood diabetes. I'm talking about childhood rheumatoid arthritis. I'm talking about ADHD. I'm talking
asthma.
about autism, asthma. All these peanut allergies. You didn't have one kid who had peanut allergies.
We would have beat the shit out of him with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich if you had one.
And then you have this. So at least he's talking about this. At least it's going to, because it's talking about improving the health of people, of Americans, so we can get.
I agree with him on this. I agree with you on this. It makes me, this clip keeps coming to mind, and Dawson, you may have it somewhere, but remember I came in like 6 months ago with those two ladies, one a doctor on MSNBC, talking about hair relaxer and how it affected black women.
And then it turned into
turned into a commercial for a pharmaceutical.
Wow. Yeah. They create a problem so they can come up with a drug for the other problem.
They literally... It's called an integration. It's literally, you two bitches talk about hair relaxer for 2 minutes and then spend 4 minutes talking about the importance of getting your children vaccinated.
Yeah.
And I was like sitting there, it's only like 6 months old. I was like, you shouldn't vaccinate a 6-month-old kid.
I know,
why are you doing? And one's a doctor. But literally the subject matter was hair relaxer, and they spent less time on the stated subject than they did on getting your kids vaccinated.
My friend, Dr. Larry Pilevsky,
yes.
Dr. Larry Pilevsky, who's a board-certified, New York board-certified pediatrician, he said what turned him off against just this blatant vaccines, like, when you and I were kids, it was 4, 6. Now there's 69 different shots, 69 different doses of 14 vaccines before the age of 6. And what's going on with our kids? Can we look at that first? But the one that got his attention, and a lot of people's, including mine, was this hepatitis B shot, which if your wife doesn't have it and you don't have it, there's no, you get it from drugs or from sex. From drug addiction or sex. That's what hepatitis. But what happened was Merck made this thing in the late 80s for a teenager kind of drug or for sex. No one was taking it. And Merck said, and you can look it up in the New York Times in 1990, they said, we're not going to spend $1 billion making something, and if adults won't take it, we'll put it on the childhood schedule. And that's what they did. And that got my attention. So we're doing this not for the health reasons of children. We're doing it for the financial reasons of pharma. And that got my attention. That got a lot of other people. And once you know that, and then you don't want to talk about it, or you won't bring it up, and you're a doctor, and most of the money coming from pediatricians is from this, then you go, wow. So we have to question it. And if you care about children, that's my thing. If either you care about the pharmaceutical, their money, their bottom line, or you care about the health of children in America. And that's why I support Bobby Kennedy, because at least he talks about this, wants to do something.
Let's be another one of my mom's flip side progressive things. Now, you guys have become champion. The lefty progressives have become champions of big pharma.
Fuck, yeah, unbelievable.
That's unbelievable. My mom
that happened.
Thought she could cure everything with the whisker of an old Chinaman's chin.
On a full moon.
On a full moon with some eye of newt. Like, she wouldn't have trusted, she didn't trust guys who made aspirin.
Remember they said, like, pregnant women weren't supposed to take aspirin. They got to take this COVID-19 shot that's been tested on 10 mice only? It's like, what happened to the society? What happened to people asking questions? When the fourth estate, the media, no longer asks questions and no longer participates to look out for people, this is what you happen. You have a pharmaceutical takeover of our society.
Well, I wonder if we have that clip. Can we find that? You don't really have to play the first 3 minutes, because the first 3 minutes of them talking about hair relaxer. It's the second 4 minutes.
I think we have the first 3. Hold on.
I got to see.
We got to have both. All right, we'll play the first.
We have them both.
It is necessary to have hair relaxers, though. Let's be honest.
Well, it's funny. Look at the hair of the woman she's talking to on MSNBC, but they just play it.
Concerning results are being reported from a new study showing that chemicals found in black hair care and cosmetic products have a greater impact on black women's risk of breast cancer. The study found that chemicals called parabens are responsible for the increased risk in black women, but the same results weren't seen in white women. The parabens also promoted the spread of breast cancer cells in the body with a bigger effect in Black patients. Joining me now to discuss, MSNBC medical contributor Dr. Ebony Hilton. And parabens are not something that I was completely unfamiliar with before this study because,
Black woman.
Often
all right, this is what the bit was. I was just sitting home watching this. I didn't find it on the internet or anything. I was just watching MSNBC.
And what is Zerlina?
That's her name, I guess.
Okay.
And then they get to talking about vaccinations.
How did they get there?
I don't know.
While we're talking to.
I want to turn to the topic of COVID. On Tuesday, President Biden announced vaccines are now available for kids under the age of 5. I know a lot of parents out there have been waiting forever for this announcement. What do you want to tell them about vaccinating their children under 5?
They don't need it? They don't need it?
Right. For one, I would hope they see that it did take a long time before this was rolled out because first, safety had to be verified. And that is most important. The second thing I want them to know is oftentimes this was stated early on that kids are protected. But what we know is that 6 times the number of kids died from COVID
than the flu. True. That's
this
not
past
true.
year, right? We had 600 children who are no longer with us from 2021.
Do they have any other health?
And there is now a method that you can use to help protect your child from being hospitalized and keep them alive to see next year. And there's a saying, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
They won't tell you that those
vaccinated, make sure they're wearing those masks, and practice those same mitigating factors that we've been doing now for 2.5 years.
They won't tell you the health. There were other health contradictions.
It gets better. Keep going.
Season we can already trace. They say, well, you can't tell the long-term consequences of the vaccine. Well, yes, we can. In acute time, I've got my vaccine back in December 2020, right? I was the first person at the University of Virginia. We've now been able to track persons like me to see what has happened. Has anything changed? But what we also know is that we're tracking people who have COVID-19, children and adults alike. And what we know is that 1 in every 5 persons who've been infected with COVID-19 now has a lingering disability where their organs, their heart, their lungs, their kidneys, their brain is no longer functioning in the same way that it was before they got infected with COVID-19.
All right.
And when you take...
You get it right. It's a commercial for Pfizer and Upjohn. It's a pharmaceutical commercial that broke out in the middle of a hair relaxing.
Yeah. It's like 70% of this segment.
And it was all lies.
Well,
that's all you need to know, MSNBC, everyone.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
All right. Michael Lombardi, he's a football executive. He's been on the show before. He knows everything about football. We're going to, I think Rob's going to eat his burrito out there.
Is he coming in to talk football? I don't know.
You don't know anything about football.
I don't know anything.
No, but Rob Schneider, go to robschneider.com. Date's coming up. Harrison Opera House coming up this Friday, in Norfolk.
Norfolk on Saturday. But hey, thank you, by the way. I got to tell you, because you're one of the few voices of reason the last few years. And I have to tell you that there's not been a lot who have stood up and taken it, and you have, and it is, it's I'm an honor to be. Before I was just happy to be your friend. Now I feel honored to be your friend because you're a stand-up guy for freedom, and God bless you and thank you. So it's an honor to be on your show.
Well,
now.
as I modestly say to everyone, I don't have a choice.